Hey, Kilted Warrior here. Hope you're having a great day. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoy the content, and stick around to the end if you want to find out what the next lore video will be about. Otherwise, let's begin. The Elder Scrolls. Fragments of creation. They have foretold the future, the coming of heroes who define the ages. They foresee calamity, millennia in the making. They have a story to tell of the multitude of actions of gods and mortals alike. To understand Tamriel, Mundus, we need to journey through the ages and tell the story of the Elder Scrolls. The Dark Master. Molag Bal. Molag Bal. The Prince of Domination. Lord of Brutality. The Dark Master. The Daedric Prince has many names and titles, testament to his dark will and malice. Of all the Daedric princes, his dark intentions are the most clear. There is no subtlety in his evil. Despite being the prince's schemes, he has always sought domination over all existence. He has few friends and many enemies. To the Kaji, Molag, he was part of the second litter of Fadome. To the Dunmer, the Bal we know was born in Bal-Ur, a cursed place and a pilgrimage site of the trials involved in the understanding of the four corners of the House of Troubles. Unlike Akatosh, his origin is not as important as how he has sought to interact with the realm of Mundus and his endless scheming to dominate and corrupt all things.
You think you can betray the Lord of Brutality and Domination without consequence? You will pay for your arrogance. You will writhe in agony for the rest of eternity.
Domains and aspects. Molag Bal and his quest for dominion over all and his role as the Dark Master is best understood by his domains and how his nature as a result differs particularly from Akatosh, Arkay, Boethiah and Meridia, these being his great foes. Domination, for he desires dominance over all that the Aedra have created. Power, for he believes power is its own end and the only purpose to exist. Tyranny, for he believes in coercive power, domination without legitimacy but by force. Corruption, for he seeks to corrupt the purity of the Aedra's creations. Suffering, for he cannot act without cruelty and malice in his actions. Strife, for he is the schemer who cannot achieve power legitimately and must sow strife. Undeath, for there is no greater corruption of life given by the Aedra than the curse of undeath, and he is the father of vampires.
For the moment your world is spared, but my grand scheme has only begun to unfold. Your power shall prove useful in the coming conflicts.
The schemes of the Dark Master. The Lord of Undeath. Perhaps the most influential aspect of Molag Bal is not his attempt to dominate, but his association with undeath, and how he is linked to many undead creatures throughout Tamriel. Though no god can claim to be the source of the art of necromancy, Molag Bal has been known to grant the gift of undeath to his followers, as well as having been known to have an inherent knowledge of it. as what greater way to insult Arkay's circle than prevent a soul from leaving its body? It is through his scheming to defile the order or life that Molag Bal created the first vampire, Lemay Beolfag, once the Nedic priestess of Arkay, but then progenitor to many of the vampire clans of Tamriel. And after, Molag Bal would create many purebloods and continue his mockery of life. Yet that was not enough, for Molag Bal is also the patron of many of the greatest necromancers in history. The Slode that were the target of the All Flags Navy were said to pay homage to the Dark Lord as they practiced their cruel experiments, with part of the All Flags Navy being drawn into Cold Harbour during the demise of the Slode at the Coral Tower, with many of the survivors falling to undeath in due time. Then there is the most infamous necromancer in Tamriel's history, nay, Mundus's history, Mannimarco, the King of Worms, and his worm cult served Molag Bal during the Planemeld and beyond as being the one who encouraged his followers to seek undeath, and naming Arkay as the great enemy of all necromancers, for like Bal, they seek domination over others even in death. The Planemeld. With the crises of the Second Era, the fall of the Raymond line to the machinations of the Morak Tong and Mephala, and the eventual destruction of the Akaviri Potentate, the Empire's dragonfires went cold, and Molag Bal enacted his scheme to make Nirn his own. Through his agent, Mannimarco, the King of Worms, he manipulated the Emperor Varan Aquilarius and his desire to rule unchallenged, and along with his companions was tricked into defiling the Amulet of Kings, Chim El Adabal, and causing the event known as the Soul Burst. Using Mannimarco to control the Elder Council, they began sacrificing the souls required to not only empower the Dark Master, but also his dark anchors that would pull Nirn into Cold Harbour by force. The Dark Master's schemes may have succeeded, if not for the resolve of the reformed Five Companions, led by now the Hero of Prophecy, with a humbled and regretful Varan Aquilarius, the Prophet, guiding this vestige, as well as the intervention of Meridia, the great enemy of Molag Bal, as well as the betrayal due to the ambitions of Mannimarco, who, like his once master, sought power and had a limitless hunger for more, even trying to trap the soul of a god he supposedly served. Despite his failure, Molag Bal's intrigue had caused one of the greatest calamities to face Tamriel, and served as a stark warning as to his reach and influence, raising the question, what would have happened had his servant not betrayed him, and also just how vulnerable Mundus had become. Regardless of his failure, the end of the Alliance War and the continued interregnum spurred the gods to elevate a new champion that would unite Tamriel, relight the dragonfires, and usher in the Third Era. For Tiber Septim would be the gods' answer. Foes of the Dark Master. As a god that seeks complete dominion, Molag Bal has made many enemies. As we learnt last time, we already know about how his concept of power is anathema to Akatosh's concept. Yet, Molag Bal has many more foes than that, each having acted against him, insulted him, and some betraying him. Arkay, a matter of life and death. With Molag Bal's obsession with control and his hatred of all the Aedra have created, Molag Bal made an enemy of Arkay as he sought to corrupt life itself by preventing souls reaching the afterlife. and thus he intruded upon Arkay's sphere of the circle of life and death. Their rivalry led to LeMay Beelfac's fate, and also her hatred of both deities, as Molag Bal wanted to prove he could act with impunity against Arkay, and by Arkay's abandonment of LeMay over her unlife and the deaths that resulted, the Dark Master effectively achieved his goal. Then, with his support of the Order of the Black Worm, led by Mannimarco in the Second Era, despite eventually losing control of them with Mannimarco's betrayal and the events of the Planemeld, they still to this day call Arkay the Great Enemy, and for Bal it was another victory against his inveterate foe. And thus their battle over the control of domains of life and unlife have defined the battles of clerics and necromancers throughout the ages.
I grow weary of your games, Meridia.
Go, warriors of light. These dark chains must be broken.
You cannot stop me, Meridia. This realm will be mine.
Meridia, the darkness and the light. Where there is darkness, there is light. Where there is undeath, there is the light of Meridia seeking to purge their darkness. While Arkay curses the undead and necromancers alike, Meridia is not content to be idle and seeks to lead a holy crusade against them, and as such she fights a never-ending battle against Molag Bal, and constantly seeks to thwart him, making her, at times, an uneasy ally of the Aedra. While Molag Bal seeks to plunge the world into his dark tyranny with no hope, Meridia seeks to purge the world with divine light, and therefore they are diametrically opposed in the extreme, as once a Magna G, she sees everything Molag Bal is as an abhorrence to the natural order of existence and must be destroyed without mercy, and is thus another of the many reasons the Ayleids fell, as these enemies had rival kingdoms warring with each other, and as such their hatred was so great that they ignored the rising Alessians. Yet that rivalry came to a head as the last king of the Ayleids and his mistress assisted the hero of prophecy, preventing the Planemeld with her own intervention to the benefit of the Aedra, and yet she as well as him knew this was just another bout in their great game.
Get behind my shield.
Did you think it would be that easy? My minions will tear you apart!
Where is the Amulet of Kings? My master, Molag Bal, demands it.
Your master, please. You would use the amulet to betray Molag Bal.
Fool! When I ascended, you could have been at my right hand, Tharn.
Mannimarco. Ambition is the death of loyalty. The King of Worms, once the greatest servant of the Prince of Domination, became his greatest disappointment. Having set in motion the events of the Planemeld, Mannimarco, like his master, proved to be as much of an ambitious schemer as the Lord of Schemes himself, as he attempted to use Chim El Adabal, the Amulet of Kings, to trap the soul of the Dark Master for himself as a means to achieve godhood. Yet, it is not so easy to out-scheme Molag Bal, Lord of Schemes, and with exposure of his plans by the actions of the hero of prophecy, Bal imprisoned the traitor and sought to levy unimaginable suffering and torment upon him. Yet Mannimarco was not destined to remain a plaything of the Dark Master, and he escaped back to Tamriel, and unfazed by his failure, continued to seek godhood. The irony was, for Bal, though he would never admit it, Mannimarco arguably was his best student. Despite his betrayal, he embodied much of what Molag Bal was: a schemer, callous, ambitious, wrathful, and in the end would achieve his goal after centuries of waiting, for like Molag Bal, he was undeniable and would have his day.
The King of Worms commences to his side. With his power, the King of Worms leaves his mortal frame and joins the ranks of the gods of Oblivion.
You forsake the weak and pitiful Boethiah?
Yes.
You're mine now, Logrolf.
Boethiah, the Dark Warrior and the Tyrant. While other foes of Molag Bal are so due to having opposing domains or nature to the prince, Boethiah shares several domains with the Prince of Schemes, for Boethiah is the Prince of Plots, Destruction, Darkness, Discord, Brutality, as is Molag Bal. However, they differ on what purpose it serves and how they conceptualize them. Boethiah does not fight or destroy to seek dominion, but rather to challenge, test, and show the futility of prolonged rule, while Bal wants to be an eternal tyrant with no challenges but absolute power. Boethiah plots the downfall of rulers, not to elevate themselves, but to embrace the beautiful chaos of power struggles and the test of who should rule, while Bal seeks to place his own pawns in power for as long as they please him, and that only through cruelty and fear is rule permanent. Boethiah is a warlord who respects strength and using all means to win, but accepting that a challenger is always inevitable. Molag Bal seeks to prevent all challenges from ever occurring. Therefore, Boethiah is anathema to Bal, as they seek to prove how petty Bal's attempts to control are, and that power must be earned, maintained, and is never eternal, and this enrages Molag Bal. This is why the Dunmer venerate Boethiah as the harsh teacher of the reality of politics and war, and warn against Molag Bal.
The mace of Molag Bal. I give you its true power, mortal. When your enemies lie broken and bloody before you, know that I will be watching.
Servants of the Dark Master. The Dark Master has no friends, only pawns and servants. They tend to be undead, as he considers it his gift to his followers, yet most betray or fail him in the end, and his punishment is swift and cruel. Woe to anyone who thinks that the Prince's schemes can be a loyal master, and even still, only the strong may earn his favour, if only temporarily. Mannimarco, the King of Worms, founder of the path to lichdom, the sovereign, betrayer of Bal. Lord Harkon, Vampire Lord, progenitor of the Volkihar clan, sought to cut the link between Mundus and Aetherius with Auriel's bow, a pawn of prophecy. The last Dragonborn, the first dragon-blooded vampire lord, lord of the Volkihar, bane of the Dawnguard, ended the tyranny of the sun and guardian of the mace. Understanding evil and the trials ahead. Molag Bal is a distinct presence within the Elder Scrolls universe. He has been behind some of the most insidious schemes and acts against the Divines, and is an ever-present threat, as where there is a desire to have power and control, fools will always seek to bargain with the Dark Master for power, and this is not the last we will hear of the Prince, and his constant attempts to corrupt noble heroes is legendary, as next time we shall cover the first mortal legend in our series with the tale of the last Dragonborn. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to subscribe if you did and click the alarm bell to get notified of the next lore video. Otherwise, please have a nice day and thanks for watching.